After a very long and depressing winter out here in Ohio, this has been a video I've been wanting to make for months. Let's get out of the house and go find the bikes. If you like motorcycles, don't get an apartment. These suck. This was the bike that I remember geeking about with my friends when talking about motorcycles in high school. The Yamaha R6 was the bike. And we got big updates for her today. She finally hit the 600-mile break-in service. Hey, here she is, ladies and gentlemen. Finally, with the 600 miles all done, let's get the cold start. The R6 is one of the only bikes out there that really has a cold start. You just never know if she's going to start in the first little crank or if she's just going to keep chugging and chugging and chugging. If you guys didn't know, the R6 never came with a gas gauge, so we actually don't know how much fuel is in this bike. She honestly looks fine. You kind of just have to guess by looking down into the gas tank, and if she's got enough fuel, then you're good. So if you guys didn't know, I started out on a bike very similar to this motorcycle. The first bike I ever bought was a 2008 Yamaha FC6. If you don't know what that bike is, it was basically an old MT07, like an old age Yamaha naked bike. It came with a detuned Yamaha R6 motor. It's still revved up to about 14,000 RPMs, made almost 100 horsepower, which for a first bike was probably a bit much. But I absolutely adored the Yamaha R6 back when I was in high school, and I'm so lucky to be able to own one now. This bike just reminds me of why I got in the motorcycles in the first place, and it's the adventure. When I got my first bike, every area that I rode to for the first time felt like the first time because it was. And so this bike just reminds me, yeah, I have to drive a little bit further now to find new places, but it's like, hey, part of riding is the novelty of exploring a new area. It's what keeps this hobby fresh after all. But this bike needs two things done before we can go full throttle on it for the first time. A, it needs an oil change, which if you don't know, oil changes on these are kind of annoying. You need to remove the entire side fairing in order to reveal the oil filter to remove it. So that's going to be a whole afternoon. But since we're going to have this bike apart anyway, I figured it'd be a good chance to put a full exhaust on this motorcycle, which we're going to be doing probably next video, so keep an eye out for that one. But we're going to be taking this thing to Ducati Cleveland, so let's get this thing started up. She's a little bit better with the warm starts. I missed a shift. That's what they call missing a shift on a motorcycle. I do it all the time. It's just because I'm lazy and stupid and these boots make it difficult. Now here's a bike that was a little bit interesting. This is the new Ducati V2. Here's the old one right here for reference, but this is like the new one. This one's like very similar power to the R6. 120, 130 horsepower, makes way more torque than the R6. It's priced around what the R6 would have costed in today's money, around that like $15,000 mark. It's got better brakes, has better suspension, has a giant screen with electronics and everything. Wheelie control. The R6, you get nothing. It's just, you get a tachometer and a little bit of a prayer. You do, however, get 16,000 RPMs compared to about only 10,000. In terms of value for what you're getting per dollar, this would have been better. Obviously, the R6 is discontinued and is being replaced by the Yamaha R9, and I still have a Yamaha R9 on order, and I really want to compare it to the new Ducati V2, but the R9 still hasn't arrived yet. It's like almost May now, and it's still out here, so I don't know. I was told April. Though this bike is better than the R6 in pretty much every single way. This bike is probably faster around a racetrack. It's easier to rip around a racetrack, but it perfectly allows me to describe why I love this bike so much. It's not a reasonable bike. This bike is not a bike that is easy to rip. It is not a bike that is comfortable in the slightest. But you know what it does have? Once again, I'm going to start repeating myself here. 16,000 RPMs, baby. 16.5. That is ridiculous on a street bike. I love this bike. That's going to be a common theme that you're going to see today as I describe a lot of these motorcycles. Would you look at that? Even more Ducati V2s. These guys are staying busy. Ooh, that's a V2S. That's the first V2S I've seen. It's the one with the Olins. The Olins. So he's got the golden forks on the Ducati V2. Ooh. So this is somebody who really wants to go faster around a racetrack. It's got the seat cowl already installed on it, so no girls on the back. Or boys, hey, whatever you're into. Or they thems. Since we talked about the R6 in the last video, I don't really want to talk about this bike too much, but I just think that this bike is perfectly setting up for why I love all the bikes that I have and why I own the current bikes that I have. So we're going to be dropping this bike off, and we're going to be working on her, I think, next week sometime. Yeah, so the full system for the R6 is right in here. That's what she's going to look like. So it's just a matter of having a little bit more patience before we install this thing. Cold start on a 2024 Ducati Hypermotard 698. Starts right up. If you guys remember, I like this bike so much that I ended up shipping it out to California over the winter and riding it through the California canyons. For that reason, this bike will always have a special place in my heart. Woo, the clutch point on this bike. It's just one of the weird quirks about this bike. To hold the gas cap like it's a dirt bike. It's just the stupidest thing. I wish Ducati didn't do it, but it's one of the weird quirks about this motorcycle. She really had no gas in her. Only about a 2-gallon fuel tank. Super small, super tiny. That, of course, leads me into my favorite reason why I like this bike, and that, of course, just has to be the weight. There's a few other interesting things about this bike, like the fact that it has Desmo valves on a bike that only costs like $12,000. And the weight also lets you do other really fun things with this bike. All right, go Corolla. Why are you stopping? Why are you stopping? You have the right of way. Well, perfectly. Just go. Good. Okay, there's a lot more people over here than I thought there would be today. So I guess this is somewhat of a risk, but who cares, really? I identify as a bicycle. This is completely allowed. Last time I came over here, I was on my 636 a couple years ago. I've not done it since, just because I don't want to talk about why. Woo! Should we go up the hill? You think we can make it up the hill? Oh, that would be so stupid if I dumped it going up that hill, wouldn't it? Oh, we're gonna dump it. And the fact that I don't have the confidence, I'm like, uh-oh. Yeah, we're gonna dump it. Ooh, she's still a giant big single. She's not quite a dirt bike, and that's the one weakness of her. Well, I was gonna bring her out here and try to do some wheelies and be like, oh, it's on a private road, but unfortunately there's just too many cars out here for me to even like lie about it, so that's not gonna happen. But I still wanted to show off the reasons why I like this motorcycle, why it's interesting, why it's cool. And that's because it's like little adventures like this. This is something that you would like, if you buy an S1000, if you buy a Ducati V4, an R1, whatever, any super bike out there that's commonly like gushed over, you're not gonna do stuff like this because you're scared of ruining it. You're scared of having it come out here and like scratch it or like hit a nail or something. On a bike like this, you're more inclined to do it because you have the ground clearance, and yet it's still a street bike. Like, what the heck's back here? This looks interesting. This looks like all abandoned. Oh no, there's a house back here. This ain't abandoned at all. Whoa, this is so cool. There's like someone's home with like trash back here. What a private little area. That must be so nice to live back here with nobody else back here. There's some sort of gate thing. What the heck is that? I kind of want to see what that is. I'll just kill the bike. What is over here? I've never been back here. Oh, it's like some sort of water gate thing. It's allowing the water to flow through, but it's like covering it so humans don't go inside of it. Oh. And then like they have, it looks like this path probably goes down into a door. It's probably part of like the water, it's probably part of like the sewage company thing, the people who handle sewage. You'd actually be like really surprised how closely kept of a secret the sewage like information is out here. I'm in a class that we used a lot of like the sewage company's data as part of our project, and I had to sign like an NDA and stuff like that. I think I'm allowed to talk about it. I don't think I'm gonna get sued for talking about the fact that I had to sign an NDA, but I just can't, I can't disclose any of the information because it would be like a national security risk. And so I'm assuming it's like stuff like this. See the white, yellow paint? It's like clearly kept up to date. Oh, it's so interesting. Why is sewage such a national security risk? I mean, I guess I can kind of understand it. It's part of critical infrastructure, but it's still like... Oh, that is an official closed road. That we could do as many wheelies as we wanted down. That road is closed.
You know, there might have been a slight miscalculation with how hot it was going to be today. Whew. I thought Ohio was supposed to be miserable and cold this time of year. We skipped over the nice, cool spring, and all of a sudden it's meltingly summer out here. Which I suppose is a segue into my next bike here. Trading one for another.
Well, next up, my boys, we have the comically hot 2024 Kawasaki H2. I thought since it was a little bit warm outside, I mean, it's only like 85 degrees, but as a native Ohioan, that's steaming hot. Especially we've been dealing with such a cold winter, and all of a sudden it warmed up so quickly. I thought it would be really funny to take out the hottest bike that I own. Roll the clip. Whoa! Yeah, she's a fiery beast, isn't she? This is by far the most expensive, not only motorcycle that I own, but expensive vehicle that I own in the entire world. And that's kind of gonna be the downside of it a little bit. Let's get the cold start. Yeah. I haven't ridden this thing in a while, bro. Every little movement, every downshift, every upshift is just so dramatic. And that unfortunately leaves me with the best part about this motorcycle I can't really show you on a day like today. Unless I take this bike super far away in like an area without any traffic, because that's what I've been trying to preach here on this page. Don't be stupid. At least around traffic. If you're going to be stupid, go out and do it somewhere where nobody can tell that you're doing it. But I do have some footage. I don't know if I can include it, but if I did, here it is. Yes, the best part about this motorcycle is the fact that it has so much horsepower. Gobs of just horsepower upon horsepower, and it just keeps pulling and pulling and pulling. With a top speed of well over 200 miles an hour, I'm not brave enough to test it. It's just a really hard bike to take out. But in terms of sheer and raw power, there is nothing like this motorcycle. This bike gives me philosophical revelations every time I hop on it. I don't know what it is about this bike. It just makes me feel like I'm seeing God every time. I was debating selling this bike for a little bit just because it doesn't necessarily fit into my riding philosophy. The way it makes power, the way it just suddenly surges all at once. When that little boost gauge just starts to rise and rise and rise, you just feel the power surge up and you just go, it's so manly. It's just a hard bike to justify, but at the same time, it's nice to have it. If there's ever a point where I just stop doing motorcycle social media or just social media altogether, this would probably be the first bike I would sell. Just something I kind of wanted to talk about lately. That's originally what this video was going to talk about. I had a little moment where I was lane filtering, which I get it, lane filtering isn't explicitly outlined as legal here in Ohio, but a guy like cut over and like tried to hit me, and it like scared the shit out of me a little bit. It kind of made me think about like, oh man, like motorcycles are dangerous. I don't know, topic for another day, but like, it's just, that's why I've been struggling with this bike so much. It's just, it feels like it's a temptress. It constantly just wants me to go faster and faster and faster, yet I'm scared of the power that it makes. This is a bike better served for at night purposes, not for day-to-day time. Jesus. I found a little biker gang. Hello, biker gang. Jesus Christ. I love and hate this bike at the same time. It's just such a dumb concept. Oh, 1000cc motorcycle. That's not enough. Let's throw a supercharger on it. Now, there is something you do have to be aware of when riding this motorcycle. There are 2 temperature gauges. Right down there, you have a coolant temperature gauge. That's pretty much what every motorcycle and every single car has in the world. It'll tell you how hot the coolant is in the radiator. Now, last summer, I made a bunch of videos complaining about this motorcycle, being like, it's too hot. And it's true. It is a little bit warm, but not because of the coolant temperature, but because of the boost temperature. Now, Kawasaki, being the genius engineers that they are, they of course put a supercharger on a 1000cc motorcycle, but they didn't have the brain to add an intercooler to this motorcycle. Now, I'm going to go on a whim and guess that that was probably a decision made by Kawasaki on purpose, because it would have added even more weight to a bike that's extremely heavy as it is. Or it was probably just an emissions thing or something like that. The point is, when the hot air is being condensed in the supercharger in this motorcycle, it doesn't have anywhere to go before it's just directly injected into the motor. And so as that runaway snowball effect, or opposite of a snowball, the little bit of a runaway effect is it gets hotter and hotter and hotter as that air is supercharged. And so if you're just continuously down the highway, like full top speed, it's eventually going to get so hot that it melts down the top end of this motor. Especially now that I have a tune on this motorcycle, it's just, it gets way too hot. And so if you're going really hard on this motorcycle, it gets too hot. And if you're sitting in traffic going too slow on this bike, the coolant temperature gauge starts to get too hot. So that's why I've always said that this bike is a little bit of an oxymoron, because it doesn't want to go too slow and it doesn't want to go too fast. It's like the 3 bears. It wants like the perfectly just right porridge, which is kind of annoying and stupid, especially considering how expensive this bike is. So what am I doing with this bike? I don't know. It's just a bike I like to take out every now and then to just kind of remind myself, hey, I'm just a wee little mortal. I'm just a tiny little man, and I have no worth in this world other than just the brief blip amount of time that I exist. It's a humbling experience to remind myself, woo. It is a humbling experience to let myself know that I will never be able to become as good of a rider to truly be able to handle this bike. Which is also kind of why it's my safest motorcycle, because whenever I do ride it relatively safe and within my limits, because I know if I try to play with this bike, as in I try to have too much fun on this bike, I know it'll quickly outrun the skill that I have to be able to handle this bike. So I end up riding it within my skill range, even though it's a bike that completely exceeds my skill range. Does that make sense? So I feel like out of all the bikes in my lineup, this is probably the one that I would probably crash the least, if that makes sense, in every multiverse, in every world.
And for the first time probably ever, I at least have 4 of my bikes together. We're missing something. If only the R6 wasn't getting worked on. Just get you away. Number 2, I'm now left with a little bit of predicament. I want to go get some fresh food, but which bike do we take? Choices. I ain't gonna lie to you, I really wanted to take the V4, but it is just too hot out here. Whew. Figure we'll take the V4 out later when it gets a little bit more tolerable. We got a little bit of heat stroke, so we're gonna go grab some food. This is my 2022 Yamaha M07. I bought this bike last year used for I think like $6,000 to last. Oh. A bee just flew into my helmet. That was terrifying. Let's hear that awesome sound of the Yamaha CP2. She sounds so good. It's like a little touch of that classic Harley with like the sewing machineness of a Japanese motorcycle. Such a good sounding bike considering how reliable that it is. Though this was probably my most boring motorcycle, it is nice to have a bike that doesn't just dump heat onto me. And we've arrived once again. The Chipotle Mexican Grill. Please sponsor me, Chipotle, please. I'm begging you. So just because I have some bad things to say about this bike, please don't let that devalue all the good things that I do have to say about it. I mean, this was the first bike that I learned how to wheelie on. That's pretty cool. And I'm gonna go ahead and go on a whim and say that this is the perfect motorcycle for like 95% of people out there. Yeah, it's not the best riding motorcycle ever, but you can pretty much do
everything that motorcycles have to offer on this bike. It can go over 100 miles an hour. It can do some mild cornering. If you probably get some better tires and a better setup, it would probably be a lot more fun. You can take this bike anywhere, and it's just going to keep ticking. Unfortunately, just because I have been riding decently long enough, and I'm not the best motorcycle rider out in the world, I have unfortunately reached my limit with this bike, especially when compared to other bikes in my lineup. I don't know if you can even see it with this camera, but I've scraped the bottom of this bike before. I've kissed the limits with this bike and then some. If it wasn't for bikes like the 698, it's just, I wouldn't feel any need to get rid of this bike. I feel like I could just continuously ride this bike and find new things to enjoy out of it. But I just can't help but feeling whenever riding this bike, I would rather be riding the 698. Though this has better service intervals than the 698, I just would rather be riding that bike, and so it's hard to have a bike that I keep around just because it's easy to work on. I mean, there's other reasons why I keep this bike around. This is actually the only motorcycle in my lineup, the last motorcycle in my lineup that has a direct throttle connection. No electronics whatsoever. There's no power modes, there's no traction control. It is literally a wire that goes from here all the way down over here. That little wire right there is directly connected to the throttle bodies. Plus, just listen to that sound, baby. Do you see how it just directly reacts to my throttle input? No electronics whatsoever. How many times have we done this today? I can't wait till I get my own garage. And now finally, for the moment you all have been waiting for, the elusive, the mighty, the powerful, the 2025 Ducati Panigale V4. By far, probably one of the prettiest bikes that I own, and probably one of the more interesting ones. Oh my god. Oh god. Even just moving this bike around is just so intense. Everything it does is just pure, unadulterated theater. Now, the reason that I bought this motorcycle is because I used to own a 2024. Now, my 2024 wasn't the most agreeable motorcycle of all time. I think that much is clear. And so after I crashed my old one, I was not about to go out and buy another one. But after test riding the brand new 2025, it was a little bit smoother of a ride. They kind of solved a lot of my grievances with the last one. This one feels a lot more stable. The throttle's a lot easier to control. And so I felt comfortable buying another one. Since then, I put an exhaust on this bike, and it's been an absolute animal ever since. I get a lot of comments of people saying that they associate this bike with me, which is, I suppose, kind of cool. It definitely does not have as much mileage than compared to any of my other bikes right now. It only has 1,200 miles, but I did get this bike over the winter, so it's a little bit unfair to my other bikes. This thing has almost as much horsepower as the H2 does, while also having way better electronics and a way smoother throttle to boot. While this bike is easier to control than the H2 is not really a high bar to beat. This bike is still incredibly hard to control compared to something like an R1, which I got to experience when I rode an R1 and this bike back to back. This is a monster. It's an animal, and it's something that deserves a lot of respect. The problem is, it's not like the H2 where it scares me away from trying to push the limits. Sometimes I've tried to push the limits on this bike, and so I'm a little bit worried that clearly this bike is outside of my skill range, but it still is like pushing me to try to do things on a bike that I probably shouldn't be doing it on. I'm just worried. I don't want to end up like the last time, which is why I try to treat this bike as more like a sport touring bike. I want to try to go super far on this bike, like adventure on it, and not like so much around corners. But I love these bikes, and I really don't want to wreck them, and so I try to keep them nice. And is owning 5 motorcycles a little bit much? Yeah, probably. But in this never-ending quest to have a perfect bike for every single situation and scenario, this is just kind of what's unfolded. Let's go sit in traffic! Yeah! Hey, what did I say? Sitting in traffic on the V4 is always what I look forward to most on my rides, right? Yeah, this is another bike just like the H2 that's like, it's probably best enjoyed far away from all of this. If you're buying a V4 to commute in traffic, I don't know if you know what you're doing. Every single motorcycle that I rode today is, to be honest with you, quite attainable. I remember just 2 years ago, I was watching videos and I was looking up photos of the Yamaha R1 in one of my college courses just 2 years ago. Since then, I have then bought a Yamaha R1, sold one, and owned a multitude of other bikes since then. It's so crazy how fast things change in just 2 years. And without TikTok, and without YouTube, without Instagram, none of this would have been possible. Owning and riding all these different bikes and continuing to do so is one of my favorite things in the entire world. I would have never in a million years guessed sitting in that college class 2 years ago that I'd be owning an H2, owned 2 Ducati V4s. I have a Yamaha R6, my high school dream bike. I have an M07, which I remember was one of my dream beginner bikes. I own a Ducati 698, a bike that I didn't even know I wanted until I got one. If you want something really, really, really bad, just know you can make it happen. I hope that you guys learned something about me today and the bikes that I chose and why I chose them. Make sure you guys stick around for the next one because it only goes up from here. Bye bye.